Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So Washington and the Giants play to a 20-20 tie. The Commanders go off into their Week 14 bye at 7-5-1. Do you feel any different about yesterday's outcome? Whether you were extremely frustrated, I talked to some of you yesterday on the post-game show, and you were more livid at yesterday's outcome than you were any other outcome this season, which I find hard to believe because ties, they give you this ambiguous feeling. Like you really don't know how to feel when you tie because competitively, there needs to be a winner. Someone has to be able to say, I won. And we didn't do that yesterday, obviously. I was somewhat subdued. I told you the term and the emotion that I used to describe how I thought we should feel, or at least how I felt, was fortunate. I went back and watched the game again and again. I actually watched this game more times than any other game I've watched this season. And I don't really know why. I guess because in a game in which you tie and you feel like you left a lot of opportunities out there, and you also felt like there were opportunities for you to not win, and you felt like the officials didn't really help you, or they hurt you rather, because I'm not looking for help from the officials. I would prefer if the officials just stayed out of the mess and allowed the players on the field to determine the outcome. Obviously, there are egregious penalties, and that's when I think the officials should be involved. When it's egregious and it directly impacts the outcome of the play, that's when the officials need to interject themselves. If it doesn't have any bearing on the play, and I'm not saying that a hands to the face on the opposite side of the field shouldn't be called, but I'm talking about a holding penalty on the backside of a play where that guy's not even over there. Like, you don't need to throw the flag for that. Seriously. But anyway, I watched this game 3 times already. And I'll watch it 2 or 3 more because I'm going to be breaking down the film. And I got a lot to say. And let me just start by saying this. I do feel differently today. I'm more pissed off today than I was yesterday. After watching this game 3 times, there's no way in hell we should have lost this game. And I'm so frustrated with the way that it ultimately turned out because we should be 8-5 right now. And it's about missed opportunities. And, you know, I always lament missed opportunities, but it wasn't just us that created missed opportunities, didn't take advantage of some that presented themselves. There was a lot of different circumstances that helped create the firestorm that ultimately is the tie. So let's get to upon further review and why I'm so disgusted with the outcome of yesterday's game, the 20-20 tie. Upon further review, the officials screwed us, man. And I tried to downplay it yesterday because I'm not the blame the officials guy, because ultimately they have their hand in the outcome of the game from time to time. It's a part of the game. Everyone deals with it. We're not Eagles fans were crying the officials screwed them when we beat them. That's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit that exists after a loss. The thing that we used to always joke about when I was growing up, and I still to this day do that, is when people get beat, oh, you cheated, right? That's the first thing. I see this all the time with people. Oh, the NFL is rigged. The game was rigged. When you don't get your way, it's cheating, it's rigged. That's, to me, it's cheap. It's low-hanging fruit. Losers do that. That's what losers do. Losers find reasons as to why they lost. They couldn't have just not been good enough. They've got to have some reason why they lost. That's what losers do. So I don't like to do the thing that other people like to do, which is blame the officials. They did have a hand in this loss, however. And I've said this before, and I'll say this again. You will rarely hear me squarely put the game on the shoulders of the officials, because even if there's a massive call that they make that is the wrong call that goes against us, there are other plays. It's just like the guy that misses a free throw at the end of the game or misses a layup. And it's easy to point to that play and say, if he would have made that free throw, we win the game. If he would have made that layup, we would have won the game. But there are other plays in the game that would have made that free throw or that layup irrelevant, not game winning, not game deciding. There was an open three-pointer earlier in the game. You had another guy miss a transition layup earlier in the game. There's a guy that on the team that's missed 4 free throws in this game, okay? As a team, we missed 9 free throws. Like, there's so many things you can point to when you lose by 1 in a basketball game. Same thing with a football game. And same thing with officials. Yeah, they didn't do what we felt like they needed to do in certain instances. I can lay them all out for you because this is why I watched it so many times. I took notes. I don't ever take notes after games. So the Logan Thomas blocking the bat penalty was an egregious call. It's a terrible call. You can't make that call. Understand who we are as a football team. We went on 2 separate drives in this particular game. One drive was an 11-play drive that took up 6 minutes. Another was a 12-play drive that took up 8 minutes. We didn't get any points off of either one of them. And it's the simplest thing that can destroy a drive for a team that is a nickel and dime operation. We are a nickel and dime operation. It's 4, it's 3, it's 3rd and 3. We get 4 more, move the sticks. It's 5 on first down, it's 4 on second down, it's 3rd and 1, we get 1. Move the sticks. We do it all over again. And it's wash, rinse, repeat. Okay? You can't hand us a bogus block in the back on a 9.5-yard run that puts us into Giants territory at their 37-yard line with a terrible, matter of fact, we were inside the Giants 25, like at the 23-yard line. I'm watching the game back for the second time. I didn't realize we had made it that deep into Giants territory. I didn't realize we penetrated that far. Pause. I didn't know we were that close to the end zone. It always felt like we were, but we self-destructed, but the officials kicked off the deal. That's not a blocking. You cannot call a block in the back there. That's a really unfortunate call because that particular call set off a chain of events that destroyed that drive and forced us to kick a field goal that we ultimately missed, which he should have made. Okay, again, the officials didn't send Joey Sly out there to push it right. But they called the penalty that forced that field goal to be from 52 yards instead of us continuing that drive. Who knows? That might have been a touchdown drive. We were moving the football with ease on that drive. Anyway, so there's that bogus call on Logan Thomas that helped destroy that drive. They called a bogus holding penalty. It's one of the most phantom holding penalties I've ever seen. On Charles Leno Jr., I'm like, okay, they must have the wrong number. But then I watched the play like 5 or 6 times. I didn't see anybody holding. So I'm like, who is the penalty? Now, this play was a run that gained 2 yards, and we were already backed up. But when you're at 1st and 10 at your own 10, the last thing you want is a 5-yard holding penalty half the distance to the goal that puts you at your own 5-yard line, 1st and 15 from your own 5. I'd prefer not to do that. So I'd much rather have 2nd and 8 from my own 12. I'll take my chances. So that was a bogus penalty. The picking up of the flag on Terry on the pass interference, come on, guys. Seriously. That's pass interference all day long, all day strong. Okay? That's pass interference all day long, all day strong. I don't understand how you allowed others who weren't right there with the view that you had. You threw the flag. You were standing right there. Your eyes did not lie to you. How are you letting a back judge, how are you letting a guy that was 15 yards up the field convince you that your eyes are lying to you? He was obstructed from coming back to the football. There's no way that's not a penalty. Unbelievable that they picked that up. That's first and goal from the 2. Are you kidding me? It's a terrible call. Non-call. You know what? Upon further review, I watched that Christian Holmes non-OPI call. That wasn't an egregious push. He pushed him, but it wasn't egregious. He didn't extend the arm. That's just Sip not being aggressive enough. He's playing basketball, trying to box a dude out. Instead of him attacking the football, he's waiting for the football to come down. And Darius Slayton went after the ball, and he decided to wait for the football, and he got pushed out of the way. I didn't think that would. Watching it over and over again, I didn't have a problem with the non-call there. Slayton it wasn't an egregious push. I've seen guys do egregious things, and that's when you throw the OPI flag. It's hard to get OPI called. You have to be egregious with the push-off. That wasn't an egregious push-off. That's good football. And Christian Holmes, Sips, he just has to be more aggressive. And Ron said after the game, we needed him to be more aggressive, and he wasn't. But then Cornelius Lucas, there's a clip going on around on social. Somebody sent it to me in a DM, and I hadn't even seen this play. I mean, I saw the play, but I don't remember seeing someone's helmet be ripped off. But Cornelius Lucas on a 3rd and 13. This is the same drive in which Taylor Heinicke takes a terrible sack, and we end up kicking a 52-yard field goal, and he misses. Cornelius Lucas is pass protecting on that play where Heinicke takes the sack, and rushing him is Kayvon Thibodeau, who takes Cornelius Lucas's helmet, sticks his entire hand in his face, grabs his helmet, snatches it off his head, and then proceeds to rush after the quarterback. Now, he doesn't make the sack, but Cornelius Lucas's lid is a yard and a half away from the official, who doesn't throw the flag. How is that possible? That a guy's helmet is knocked off his head, you don't see it, and there's no flag. I mean, it's the most blatant hands to the face I've seen this season. And they didn't call it. But again, such is life. Make the 52-yard field goal. We didn't. So the officials screwed us in this game. We did not lose the game because of the officials, but they did not do what they needed to do to make sure that this thing played out the way that it should have. But that's okay, because Giants fans are screaming the same thing today. The officials screwed them. Upon further review, we screwed ourselves. That's right. The officials screwed us, and we screwed ourselves. I talked about hidden yardage on the preview for the game, and when I gave you my prediction, I said something that we don't talk about enough is hidden yardage in each game, and these are costly penalties. It's becoming a theme with the same guy every week, and I'm getting sick and tired of being sick and tired of talking about Percy Butler costing us on a play. Now, I love his aggressiveness. I love his speed, and he's going to be a big-time gunner and special teams player for us for years to come, but he has got to stop having penalties. He is killing us every single week. And he may have had the biggest penalty that nobody's talking about in this game. Because when Washington had all the momentum and the Giants were reeling, I mean, they were reeling. We almost had the knockout blow the round before. The bell sounds. They go to their corner. They sit on the stool. And all the trainer is doing is squeezing water in his face, trying to wake them up, trying to wake the Giants up like, hey, look. We're in this thing, all right? But we're going to need these final rounds. We need you to wake up. And they're squeezing water all over. The Giants were out of it. They're reeling from the 90-yard drive that we just put on their head in less than 2 minutes. They're reeling. They go 3 and out, and Daniel Jones almost throws a pick on 3rd down. They're reeling. They punt the football, and we get the best return of the day from Alex Erickson out to the Washington 36. We've got all 3 timeouts. There's a minute and 20 seconds left or so. And all we need is another 20 to 25 yards, which we get on this drive. But guess what? Percy Butler decides to block somebody out of bounds. Why? Why? And that's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. That's not holding. Bless me, God save me. That's a 15-yard bolo on your skull. We go from starting at the 36 to starting at our own 10-yard line. That's 26 yards of field position that we could have used to get in the field goal range to bop the Giants over the skull at the end of this game in regulation and not even have to go to overtime. We ended up picking up 22 yards on that drive and it stalled out. You put that same 22 yards with the 36-yard line and we're at least within field goal range and striking distance. And you handle the game differently. It's a dumbass penalty. That's a loser penalty. It's part of the reason we tied the damn game. We killed ourselves. A massive holding penalty on Cole Turner. He didn't have to do it. Brian Robinson is breaking to the outside. Let Kayvon Thibodeau go. Whatever Robinson gets on the play, he gets. Whether it's a gain of 5 because Thibodeau catches him from behind, or it's the same gain of 9 that he ultimately gets. Let him go. He doesn't. And that's a good call. That's a damn holding penalty. That killed a drive. Number 37, Rashad Wildgoose, had 2 penalties on the same special teams play. He was offsides, and then he committed an illegal block in the back. What are we doing? That drive was another good Alex Erickson return. That drive was supposed to start at the Washington 27. Instead, we started at our own 8-yard line. What are we doing? What are we doing? Had that been 4th and 3 and you're off, first of all, you're a gunner. You have no business being offsides. You're blocking the gunner, rather. You have no business offsides. No matter where you line up on special teams, the first thing you do is you find the football and you make sure that you're behind it. Had that been 4th and 4, that's an automatic demotion to back to the practice squad. We cutting you immediately on sight. It was like 4th and 14 or something. So the Giants didn't want that. They wanted the block in the back. Now we're starting from kingdom come all the way back in our own territory. That was the story of the second half, by the way, which is my next upon further review. We had terrible field position most of the second half. 5 of our possessions in the second half started at either the 16 or further back. Most of them started at the 10. We had 2 or 3 possessions start at the 10. We had the Antonio Gibson, muff, thinking the ball was going to bounce out of bounds into the end zone, something. It dies on him. Then he muffs it, trying to pick it up, runs backwards. It barely gets back to the 5-yard line. And then I just told you we had a penalty on on Percy Butler that pushed us back to the 10-yard line at the end of regulation on that final drive. We had a Rashad Wildgoose block in the back, took a drive and started it back at our own 8. We did the stupidest things to create bad field position for ourselves in the second half. If 2 or 3 of those possessions start where they were originally supposed to be, where the return ended, we might have had a field goal on those drives instead of having to punt. It's the little simple things. I keep talking about hitting yardage and just doing the little things correctly. When we don't have a bunch of penalties, we're a dangerous team. Upon further review, we struggled defensively in the second quarter. I don't know what it is about second quarters against NFC East teams, but we seem to not play our best football in the division in the second quarter. Now, obviously, the first game against the Eagles, we know what that was, 24 points. The Eagles didn't score in any other quarter that game, but they scored 24 points, and that was more than enough to beat us on that day. All right. The second time we played the Eagles, all right, we got off to a slow start, but we rectified it. We played good football. The Eagles weren't dominant in the second quarter. We outscored them actually in that second quarter. But in this game in particular, the second quarter was not kind to us. We were up 10-0 heading into the second quarter. At halftime, we knotted up at 13, which means we were outscored 13-3 in the second quarter. And then the first possession of the third quarter is a fumble by Washington, recovered by the Giants. And look, I hate the fumble. I hate they had the ball at the Washington 20. Literally, you've got 20 yards of grass to defend. Defend it. They didn't have to score a touchdown there. There was a 3rd and 4 on that possession that they did not have to convert. And you let Daniel Jones run for a first down. If I'm not mistaken, I might have the second quarter touchdown drive mixed up with the third quarter touchdown. But whatever the case may be, they didn't have to score, is what I'm saying. And we let them score. We struggled defensively in this game in the second quarter, but I thought the tackling overall was one of the worst performances we've had this season as a team tackling. We missed too many tackles. The Giants had, a 3rd and 10 twice they converted. They had a 2nd and 14 that they converted into a 3rd and 7 and converted that. They had a 2nd and 13 that they turned into a 3rd and 5. They converted that. There were too many long down and distances that we allowed the Giants to convert with their nickel and dime approach. There was a 3rd and 10 where Isaiah Hodgins, now they ultimately got a field goal out of this anyway, and had we stopped them, they would have kicked the field goal anyway. But still, there's a 3rd and 10 that they throw underneath to Isaiah Hodgins, and 2 guys converge on him, and somehow they allow him to squeeze through them and get the first down. It was one of the worst bits of tackling we've seen from this team all season long. It was disgusting. And it could have really come back to haunt us if the Giants, at the time of that play, the Giants had all 3 of their timeouts. And they were in great position. They were at like the Washington 15-yard line. And instead they went super conservative. They didn't even throw the football into the end zone once. Instead, they tried to run Daniel Jones on read option twice, and it didn't work. And they ultimately settled for a field goal, which they were content with. They ran the read option on 3rd down when they had no more timeouts. They ran the read option on 2nd down when they had no more timeouts, knowing that if it didn't work, they would have to spike it and then kick the field goal, which they did. If it's me, after I call my final timeout with about 15 seconds left, I'm throwing the football into the end zone these next 2 downs. It's 2nd and 10. So I'm throwing the football into the end zone. I know Atlanta had some success. Earlier this season, you played against Chicago, and Daniel Jones was killing them on read option. We ain't Chicago. You ain't running this bitch in on read option, but I'll take it. That's not my problem. That's theirs. So, but we definitely didn't tackle our best in this game. I will say this, upon further review, the interior defensive line was tremendous in this game. Casey Toohill had his moments as well. He drew a holding penalty, or James Smith-Williams rather drew a holding penalty that was huge. Casey Toohill made a nice play early in the ball game on a 3-and-out that we forced after the field goal that we got that helped lead to the touchdown drive with some great field position. But this was all about the defensive tackles. I thought John Ridgeway turned in a nice performance. He's really a solid piece along that defensive line. Thought he had some good run stops late in the ball game to force the Giants into some 3rd and long situations. I thought that Jonathan Allen was Jonathan Allen. He did not have a sack, but he had some pressures that led to sacks for other guys. He had a blow up on a run where he takes Gates, the center, and drives him 5 yards back into the backfield, and then has the presence of mind to toss him aside and tackle Saquon Barkley for a 5-yard loss. Um, he forced the fumble on the opening drive of the game of Daniel Jones, which was recovered by Jamin Davis that led to the field goal. Jonathan Allen was spectacular, but Daron Payne was the main attraction in this game. He had 2 tackles for loss. He had 2 sacks in the game. He now leads the team with 8.5 sacks on the season. He was unblockable for much of the game, and he was a huge source of frustration for the Giants up front because they had no answers for Daron Payne. So the interior of our defensive line was spectacular. I didn't think the defensive ends were all that great, but they weren't terrible in this game either. We missed Montez Sweat. Him getting injured fairly early in this game really hurt us from a pass rush standpoint. But I thought the others, F.A. Obada, James Smith-Williams, Casey Tuhill, filled in, as they've done all season long, very admirably. But we could have used more from the defensive end spot to match the energy we were getting inside from our defensive tackles. Upon further review, watching this again, and I said this yesterday, but it always helps when you go back and watch just to reinforce what you thought you saw. The receivers were open all day. The Giants couldn't cover us. It was so frustrating that we didn't do a good enough job, which takes me to my next. I'll just kind of lump these two in. Upon further review, we didn't handle the blitz well enough. We knew they were going to blitz. We knew they were coming. We knew what we were up against. We knew what Wink Martindale was all about. And I don't think we handled it well enough. I don't think there were enough things put in place to make sure that we curtailed their blitz, or at a bare minimum scared them from blitzing by hurting them via the pass. Either you're going to do one of two things to be successful, or you're not going to be successful at all against the blitz. Either you're going to pick it up, whether you got a max protect, whatever the case may be. Either you're going to pick the shit up, or you're going to burn them when they come with it by hitting quick passes behind them. If they're sending an overload blitz from the left, you throw right where they came from, right? We didn't do a good enough job of anticipating blitz, picking up blitz, and getting the ball into the hands of playmakers. It was disgusting how open our receivers were and how many times Taylor Heineke is jumping in the air to try to throw a pass. It's incomplete because he didn't have a chance to set his feet. It's almost like they were surprised by the blitz. Again, I said this yesterday. It's one thing to be surprised by the blitz in week 2 against Detroit when you didn't see a ton of it on film the week before against Philadelphia because they were scared to blitz because of Jalen Hurts. It's another thing when we're 12 weeks into the season, into week 13, there's enough of a sample size to know that this guy's a blitzing machine, going all the way back to his days as the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. You know what his MO is. You know his calling card. You know what he wants to do. They get you in 3rd and 7 or 6 or hell, even 5. They're coming after your ass. And it just seemed like we weren't prepared. And another thing you could have done, which we did on the final drive of the game, you don't want them blitzing? Go tempo. We went tempo twice in the game. The very first possession after the turnover, we went tempo and we moved it right down the field. And then we got all the way to the 3-yard line. And in typical fashion, we couldn't get the shit in, which is sickening at this point. I'm sick of that shit. Getting inside the 5 and can't make it into the end zone. This is why you got Brian Robinson. This is why you got all these damn offensive linemen. Find a way to pound that bitch into the end zone. Sick of trying to throw it in when our passing offense down there is grotesque. If you can't throw it in, run this shit in. But we went tempo and we had success on the very first possession of the game. We went tempo at the end of the game, obviously, and we marched it right down the field. Even when they tried to blitz, they couldn't. Because they couldn't get the personnel on the field and they were too tired. We should have gone tempo more. I hope that's an adjustment that they make in the next game. Is when they catch them, you get a first down, boom, let's just go. Let's go tempo. Let's just see if we can get something out of this. Upon further review, they couldn't check our receivers, though. We were open all day, man. It was frustrating. Upon further review, piggybacking off of what I just said, the Giants struggled to stop our offense all day. When you think about the game and you play it back in your mind, we were stuck on 13 for a mighty long time. And it seemed like, the offense is stagnant. We stink. So you just play the game back in your head. The first half flew by because when we play games, we eat up clock. We really dominated this game. This is why I'm frustrated. When I watched the game, I watched it the second time, and I'm saying this to myself as I'm watching it the second time. Damn, we are dominating these boys. And then the third time I watched it, I was convinced. How are we not up? Why are we trailing by 7 for the entire second half? Why are we not up, protecting a lead, building upon this lead? Because I had to go look at the numbers because I wanted to make sure what I'm watching is backed up by numbers. And it did. We outgained them by over 100 yards. We had 26 more plays. I think the Giants actually had 65 offensive snaps. We had 82 offensive snaps in the game. They weren't even close. We had the ball for 41 minutes of this game to the Giants, 29. We dominated time of possession. We dominated total yardage. We dominated offensive snaps. We dominated this game. And yet, penalties, mistakes, inability to pick up the blitz adequately killed us. Think about it. So with me saying all of that, think about this. Play the game back in your head. First possession after the turnover, field goal. You get all the way to the 3-yard line. Got to settle for a damn field goal. Second possession, 10-play, 46-yard march down the field, touchdown. Terry. It's 10-0. All right. Now the Giants get involved. Their first 2 possessions, they did nothing. Now they get involved. They score on the next 4 possessions. I told you we struggled in the second half, or second quarter rather. All right. 3 of those scoring possessions came in the second quarter, and then the final one came at the start of the third quarter. So it was a continuation from the first half. But the Giants literally had the football for a lot of the second quarter. I remember very vividly our third scoring possession, which was, we had 3 in a row. Our first 3 possessions of the game, our first 3 out of 4 possessions of the game, because we had a punt when it was 10-3, and then they scored to make it 10-10. We go back down the field and we make it 13. That drive, our 4th drive of the game, mind you, it started with 4.5 minutes to go. I'm like, damn, there's no time left in the first half, really. I'm telling a story. It started with 7 minutes. And it ended with roughly about 2 minutes and some change. We gave it back to the Giants after we kicked the field goal. All right, so we had 4 possessions in the first half. We scored on 3 of them, not counting the kneel downs at the end of the half, right? We had 4 possessions. We scored on 3 of them in the first half. You get to the second half, and you had the fumble on the opening possession, which sucked. Then you had an 11-play drive that you got all the way in the Giants territory, and then it got destroyed by penalties. And I thought that was the one with the Logan Thomas false start. We overcame that. Then he has a block in the back that is as bogus as it gets. That's the one that destroyed the drive. Okay? So you end up punting. That's an 11-play, 6.5-minute drive that stalls out in Giants territory. Then you get the next possession. That's a 12-play drive, okay? 8 minutes, okay? 12 plays, 8 minutes. And that drive gets all the way down to the Giants' 23-yard line, and then you get Cole Turner with a stupid-ass holding penalty that pushes us back to the 30, to the 35 or 40-yard line, and then you get a gain of 7 to Logan Thomas to get some of that yardage back to push us back into comfortable field goal range at about the 30-yard line or so. And then Taylor Heinicke takes a stupid-ass sack that forces us back to the 35, 36-yard line and makes it like a 52-yard field goal that he misses. If that kick is from the original line of scrimmage where he doesn't take a sack, it's good. That thing hooked late. It pushed late. It's just the little things. Just dumb. But that's 8 minutes of the clock. Another possession. They didn't stop us. We stopped ourselves. And then you had a punt. And then you had the end of the game drive to tie the game up. And then you got it again. And if not for a dumbass penalty by Percy Butler, I think that final drive is going to result in us at least getting a field goal attempt up as regulation expires from Joey Sly. Whether he makes it or not, I can't tell you. But with how we were moving the football, with all the momentum we had, if we started the 36 instead of the 10, now Ron Rivera doesn't have to worry about, well, I got to make sure the Giants use their timeouts and they don't have time. If you're starting at the 36, whether we gain another yard or not, Tress Way is going to pin them inside their own 20 from the 36. But when you're at your own 10-yard line, now you do have to worry about, hey, I wonder if we're going to get a first down, because if we don't, we give it right back to them. They could get great field position and end up kicking a walk-off field goal in regulation. You don't have to worry about that at the 36. That's a dumbass penalty. The Giants struggled to stop us. I'll say that. Overtime, we got all the way to the 45-yard line. The next play, we pick up 3. We got to the 42, and then we go backwards on the next 2 snaps. They couldn't stop us. We stopped ourselves. Lastly, upon further review, we had our chances, man. Everything I just told you adds up to, and it was funny, I was watching Bad Dog's video yesterday, and he felt the exact same way that we feel, which is he felt like they should have won the game. They had no business losing the game, and I felt that way yesterday after the game. Like, man, that's why I used the word fortunate. Like, we should have lost. If John Feliciano doesn't come over flexing, and I don't give a shit why he was doing it. It was stupid. You had nothing to do with that play. What are you coming over flexing in front of 5 or 6 different Commanders players for? That's dumb. But doesn't matter what his intent was. It was stupid. If he doesn't do that, there's 6 minutes left. They're going to get a field goal. We're done. We're down 10 at that point. If they kick a field goal, they're going to burn off another 2-3 minutes. We're going to use all our timeouts to stop them. And then if they kick a field goal, go up 10 with, let's say, 4 minutes left in the game, we're done. We're done. Obviously, that didn't happen. But they should. If we don't give them the fumble, do they score another point? They had 2 first downs and 6 drives in the second half before overtime. 2 first downs and 6 drives. Would they have scored any more points if we don't give them the football at the Washington 20? Let that shit sink in. We had our chances in this game. We really, truly did. It's frustrating. After watching it back today, there's no way the Giants should have beaten us. The only outcome was us beating them, and we just didn't do it for all the reasons I just listed. You want to win games against good football. The Giants are a good football team. Don't fool yourselves. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. They're not 7-4-1 now for no reason. We had our chances, and if we played better football, smarter football, we win the game. There was no reason for us to come out of that tied. Excuse me. None. It's frustrating. I'm really angry today. More angry than I was yesterday. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be even more pissed off watching the film, because that's going to show me that guys were open down the field, and if we could have just held up in protection. There's one play I'm thinking about at the end of regulation. They block down. They don't block Kayvon Thibodeau. Or excuse me, they got a blitzing corner coming off the edge. And that guy gets to Heineke as he's throwing the football. It's incomplete. Kayvon Thibodeau drops into coverage. They got a 2-on-1 fast break on his ass. He doesn't know what to do. You got Gibson coming out of the backfield on a Texas route or an arrow route. And you got Curtis Samuel going across the field, or Terry, I think it's Terry, on a shallow cross. Either one of those guys were wide ass open for a massive gain. And all Heineke just needs is a split second to get it to one of them. I'd like him to see what's going on faster and realize it, but he also wanted to make sure that Terry crossed face of Thibodeau, which he needed just a fraction of a second more so he could. And then Gibson, he was kind of midpointing both of them on the way out, because Kayvon Thibodeau can't stick with Terry McLaurin on a shallow cross. All Gibson on the way out, he could be a football player. Just get a piece of this dude on the way out. Or even if you don't get a piece of him, make him go around you so it's not a direct beeline to the quarterback. Just be a football player. The play may not call for you to get a piece of him, but you see him coming screaming off the edge. You're not going to get out until you're out fast enough to get the football anyway. Get a piece of him on the way out. Be a team player. He runs right by that guy. That guy comes scot-free in. And if he gets a piece of him, Terry's going to catch that football. And I can't tell you what's in front of Terry because the TV copy doesn't show that. I guarantee you when we break down the film, I'm going to be even more pissed off because I bet you on that shallow cross, as Terry crosses the face of Kayvon Thibodeau, there probably isn't a giant within the next 7 to 10 yards. It's going to be a first down, and now we're threatening field goal range. And we had all of our timeouts still. I bet you that's what I'm going to see, and I'm going to be pissed off. But anyway, I digress. We should have won that game. I'm just going to leave it at that. In other news, quickly, we'll get out of here on this. Ron spoke today. And, you know, yesterday, I told you I was going to go and watch. I always do. The post-game presser from Ron. Someone had said that Ron was putting a lot of the onus on Taylor. And that he felt like, you know, there could be a quarterback change potentially after the bye because of how upset Ron was reading the tea leaves. Ron was upset. He wasn't happy with Taylor Heinicke, but he was more upset with the officiating yesterday. He had every right to be. It was not a well-officiated game, and it hurt us. For who we are as a team, the officials, they hurt us more than they do a Cincinnati or a Kansas City or a Miami or teams that can overcome 2nd and 14 or 2nd and 17 or 1st and 20. That's nothing for those teams. They gobble that up in no time. That's one play for those teams. 2 max. For us, 1st and 20, that's an eternity. 2nd and 15 is like a death sentence. The drive is probably over. Unless we get a deep dig or we catch them napping too deep in their drops, we drop it off to a running back and he's got space. That's a tall order for a team that nickel and dimes their way down the field. So he was visibly upset about the officiating, but he didn't want to get fined. He didn't want to say anything reckless, but you could tell he was insinuating that the officiating was terrible. But I thought his comments, around the quarterback position and how it was played was warranted. It was justified. He didn't say anything reckless. I said this last week when we played Atlanta. Everybody was willing to brush it under the rug because, and again, if I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you. Everyone was willing to brush it under the rug because we won. But I said, I don't need more Taylor Heinicke. I need more of Taylor Heinicke in the snaps he's getting to throw the football. I don't need him throwing it 41 times like he did yesterday. I'm fine with the 27 that he usually gets. I just need more out of those 27 passing attempts. I need you to not miss Logan Thomas on the first possession, which would have been a touchdown. That's what I'm saying. I need you to be more decisive in the red zone. Either you're going to tuck it and run or you're going to get it to somebody immediately, but you can't be bullshitting back there. Ron pretty much sounded like he needed more. I need more. But it was a collective effort. It was the offensive line. It was, the receivers, Cam Sims on a crucial 3rd down late in the game. It's not the best throw from Heinicke, but Terry didn't have the best throw from Heinicke, but he snatched it away from the defender because he didn't jump 15 seconds before the ball got there. He timed his jump properly and was able to take that football away from that defender that was trying to cut in front of it. Cam Sims could have done the exact same thing, except he's jumping and the ball hadn't even got there yet. As the ball's getting there, he's coming down. Dude, you're 6'5" and you're losing your advantage because you're so damn anxious. Wait for the damn ball and then go up and high point it and take it away from this damn dude. Wasn't a great throw, but he could have made the most out of it. That's when I need my 6'5" guy to be 6'5" and show it. And in typical Cam Sims fashion, he wasn't able to come up for us big when I need his size. If the ball gets there to him, he's going to catch it. But when I need him to be 6'5" and use his size like he did against Trayvon Diggs last year, I need to see more of that. I don't see it enough from him. Anyway, Ron was frustrated yesterday, but today he watched the film and he pretty much said, look, we had a lot of different reasons why it didn't get done. I'm not moving on from Taylor Heineke. He's still the guy, but he wasn't committal. He was. I won't call it non-committal because he's committed to him, but he said Carson will be the backup when he's ready to come off of IR, and we'll go from there. So nothing's out of bounds. But Jonathan Allen after the game talked about wanting a crowd, and here we go, prime time, right? Like, let me just say, can I just say this? Man, it feels good to be playing meaningful football in December. That game was fun yesterday. You can call it whatever you want. That shit was fun. I enjoyed that game. Okay. Now we're getting a primetime Sunday night game against the Giants for the sequel. And Jonathan Allen, before we found out this was going to be a primetime game under the lights, said that we need it rocking. We need everybody there. And he's like, I'll buy 100, 200 tickets, whatever it takes to get that thing sold out, packed. It's not going to be sold out, Jonathan. And a lot of fans are going to be Giants fans. Just understand that. But the ones that do show up are going to be loud, like they were against Atlanta. This is going to be a fun environment. I can't wait to see. I'm going to do my part as I always do. We're going to give away some tickets, make sure that we put butts in seats for Commanders fans. But I'm just going to tell you this. We can do more with what we have, but we're going to need the offensive line to be stout and resolute. And that worries me, which takes me to my last point that I want to make today before we get out of here. And that is the injury situation. Cole Holcomb had surgery. He's out for the season. I wasn't expecting him back anyway. With the foot injury, I told you guys, similar to J.D. McKissick, I said, this isn't good, guys. This is not good. And so now he's had surgery. His season's done. He's a free agent. It's interesting because he was playing well, but do they want him back? I don't know. It would have been nice to see him finish the season. I think he would have been a candidate to be back. Now there are questions that may be raised, and maybe he isn't back. I don't think it's going to take a whole hell of a lot in terms of money to bring him back. I think he's back, but we'll see. Tyler Larson, the news isn't good. We haven't had any actual report on him, but Ron said, we were very concerned last night. Who wasn't concerned? I'm concerned when a guy gets carted off. He tweeted out after the game, the Giants need new field turf. It was hashtag better turf or something like that. And, and it was a picture of Giant Stadium or whatever. That tells me that his shit is not good. If he's tweeting that out, that means he probably had his feet get stuck in the turf and his shit gave and it's over, So I don't have a lot of confidence there. Sam Cosmi had his ankle rolled up on, did not return to the game. So there's that. So we got some issues. Let's hope that Trey Turner comes back. We probably got to roll with Nick Martin at center, which is not ideal, but that looks like I don't want Wes Schweitzer back there. He's not a natural center. He's more of a guard. But it's good to have him back because when we needed him in a pinch, he showed up big. Speaking of in pinches, upon further review, I left this off. I meant to mention is Danny Johnson was a lifesaver yesterday because Christian Holmes was not it. And Danny Johnson came in. He was aggressive. He almost picked off Daniel Jones on that third down, right? The last possession of regulation. Danny Johnson was huge in the game. He had a blitz and a sack of Daniel Jones that took them out of field goal range. They were at least thinking about a field goal, took them out of field goal range late in the fourth quarter. So, and shout out to Jack Del Rio for finally calling a damn blitz there to get them off the field in that particular position because they were threatening to kick a field goal that would have been, back-breaking at that point. So Danny Johnson came in and was huge in the game. Wanted to give Danny a shout out there. At the end of the day, these injuries are concerning, but we've got time. This is the beauty of it. Montez Sweat left the game with a concussion. We've got time. I'm hoping that we get Sweat back. I mean, at this point, whether Chase plays or not, Ron talked about Chase, and he reminded everybody, this is not your average run-of-the-mill torn ACL. There was a lot of ligament damage done in his knee. This is not normal. And so, he said because we were playing so well defensively, we didn't have to rush him back. We got to take our time on this. And so when he's 100%, that's when we'll put him on the field. But we don't have to rush because we're playing well. So I don't know when we're getting him back. Just give me back Montez Sweat and I'm fine. Give me back Tez in week 15 for Sunday Night Football, and I'm good. We'll talk more about Sunday Night Football tomorrow. We'll talk about the NFC playoff race, where we stand, what needs to be done, what's the remaining schedule, what it looks like for everyone, all of that good jazz tomorrow. That's what the bulk of tomorrow's show will be. Wednesday, we will be live with the Super Friends minus Bad Dog. Would have been nice to speak to him after what happened and transpired on Sunday and knowing that we play them again, but it'll just be L.B, Law, and myself tomorrow on Wednesday Night Live, but that should be fun as well. So anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. We'll have so much more to discuss tomorrow on the show. If any more developments, any news comes out, we'll discuss that. We'll talk more about the Sunday night flexing. We'll talk about the scheduling now with Washington playing on Sunday night, then having a Saturday game against the Giants, the 49ers the following week. Not really conducive. Ron talked about that. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. We'll talk about the NFC playoff picture, and we'll talk about where we sit, what needs to be done, and really what's the ultimate number that we need to get to in order to ensure that we're playing bonus football. All of that and more tomorrow. Stay tuned. But until then, you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless and good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.